First things first, Odell to the Seahawks. Head coach Pete Carroll hinted at the possibility, can Seattle make a Super Bowl run if they get OBJ? Nikola Jokic was tossed last night for this shove on Markieff Morris. Will it result in a suspension for the MVP? And Mac Jones explained what happened on this dirty-looking tackle. There it is. Boom, we circled to make it easier. Good Tuesday morning, everyone. Welcome to First Things First. Jenna Wolfe, tackle. The aggressive tackle. He's such an aggressive guy. Nick Wright, Kevin Wilds. We got Bucky Brooks in for Chris Broussard. Bucky, thanks for hanging with us. Kevin Wilds, are you buying Mac's excuse?
Jenna, to be honest with you, I'm totally focused on the Cleveland Browns. I only look forward with the Patriots. I don't even remember this place.
This guy. Okay, Belichick. Okay. We will get to Mac in a second. We got to start with a little Monday Night Football. Bears, Steelers, and some big controversy out of this one. With the Steelers up 3, under 4 minutes left to play, Bears linebacker Cassius Marsh called for a suspect taunting call after celebrating a sack, then making contact with official Tony Corrente there. It looked more like Corrente bumped into Marsh. The flag for the sideline stare ended up extending a Steelers drive. That resulted in 3 points. That resulted in a Steelers win. They won by 2. After the game, Marsh explaining his side of what happened.
I think it's pretty clear to everybody who saw it that I wasn't taunting. And, I've been doing the celebration my whole career, and, it's just sad to see stuff like that happen in a close game like that. It's just rough, man. I don't want to say too much because y'all know how it is, but the one thing that I will say is, on my way to the sideline, I got hip checked by the ref, and it's pretty clear. If I were to do that to a ref or even touch the ref, we get kicked out of the game and possibly suspended and fined. So I just think that was incredibly inappropriate, and that's all I'll say about that.
Well, Tony Corrente, the ref, addressed the call after the game. He said, first of all, keep in mind that taunting is a point of emphasis this year. And with that, I saw the player, after he made a big play, run toward the bench area of the Pittsburgh Steelers and posture in such a way that I felt he was taunting them. When asked if the contact contributed to the penalty, Corrente said, no, not at all. I didn't judge that as anything I dealt with. Nick's already fired up, so let's start right there. Did the refs cost the Chicago Bears this football game?
Well, this whole thing is such a damn shame, because what we should be, on a day we're lucky enough to have Bucky Brooks, what we should be starting today's show with is discussing the arrival of Justin Fields. Because in a just world, that would be the story from yesterday. But the potential first franchise quarterback the Bears have had since Sid Luckman, was this the moment he arrived? But unfortunately, as is far too often the case, when it comes to the most popular, profitable, and viewed sport in the world, we're talking about the lowest paid and seemingly least competent members of the whole operation, and that's the officiating. This whole thing is embarrassing. And I do want to give the NFL credit. The crackdown on taunting, fixing a problem that I didn't think existed, but the powers that be said it did, has worked. There is less post-play jawing. There is less standing over guys. But the natural ripple effect of cracking down on something is going to have this nonsense, where in Tony Corrente's own words, he flagged him for improper posture, as if this is Mary's Manners class that you take after social studies to learn where your fork and soup spoon go. It's nonsense. And then it is very difficult, Bucky, for me to view this entire interaction here as not peacocking by the ref, up to and including his posture of throwing the flag. A little flourish of, look what I have here. Magic wand out of my pocket. I hate it. And so I feel sick for the Bears. I feel sick for Justin Fields. I feel badly for you know, if there's an AFC team that doesn't get the 7th playoff spot because Pittsburgh gets it because of this game, none of it sits right. None of it feels right. And it was a continuation, Bucky, of some very, very tough calls going against the Bears all night.
Okay, so look, I understand the taunting penalty has really drawn the eye of everybody around the Twitterverse and the media world. But here's what I'm going to say. How long does Cassius Marsh get to celebrate a sack? He did a spinning kick.
Thank you.
He looked at his guys. He dapped up his guys. Then he took 8 steps to the sideline. He stared at the sideline. I mean, at some point, he has to go to the other side. Okay, we got to spin. We got to look. Okay, my guys come around. Then I skip-de-doo to the sideline. I look at their sideline, and then I walk back. At some point, he has to go to his sideline. And I understand this, and I refuse to let Cassius Marsh and the Bears off the hook. You had 12 penalties for 115 yards. I mean, my guy Wiles knows. The Patriots talk about DBOs, don't beat ourselves.
But how many
penalties,
of them were bogus?
turnovers, and those things. I mean, look, you got Robert Quinn jumping offsides twice in the final drive. You have Cassius Marsh with his Michael Jackson celebration.
What about the phantom one that took a touchdown away? What about the 15-yard phantom unnecessary roughness that took a touchdown away? What about this? Oh, my God. Look at the brutality suffered by T.J. Watt.
Don't play the right way. They didn't play the right way.
I mean,
so they didn't deserve the right to win.
I'm shocked T.J. Watt didn't need a stretcher after that one. It didn't even out. It cost them the game. This took a touchdown off the board, and Wilds just... I'm sorry, let me just say one other thing here. Because right after that T.J. Watt phantom low block call took a touchdown off the board, on consecutive plays, Justin Fields gets lit up, and the refs do nothing. And Wilds, my general rule of thumb on game-changing penalties, the previous one's even worse. The previous one's even worse, but you could say he was a runner. But regardless, general rule of thumb on discretionary game-changing penalties, Wilds, is if I don't throw this flag, will people be clamoring, demanding that it be thrown? No one, if they don't throw a taunting penalty on Cassius Marsh, is anyone this morning saying, oh, Bears escaped after Cassius Marsh's incredibly violent posture? I mean, it just sent shockwaves down the Steelers sideline. Is anyone saying that, Wilds?
I think that's a fair way to look at it. But I have zero sympathy for the Bears. In fact, I'm in a sympathy deficit when it comes to the Bears. Have we not talked about the taunting penalty enough, Jenna? We talk about it every single week. Do we not know that taunting is going to be called and that it's a point of emphasis? Oh, Wilds, it's an emotional game. You don't know what it's like to be out there. Yeah, I get it. I'm not a football player. You know what else is hard to do? Not jumping off sides. Oh, you've got to sit here like this. You're about to crash into a 300-pound man with all of the energy that you've ever worked for in your life. And if you go, offsides, laxative, just stupid play. He went like this. He went like this. Cost him the game. So if we are expecting that amount of discipline from the offensive and defensive line, I think after you do a spinning karate kick and what Bucky referred to as a skippity-doo, that it's all right. Don't haunt the Steelers sideline. There's no sympathy.
Okay.
Nick, we know this.
So, all right.
We talked about it 1,000 times.
That's fine. So Bucky and Wilds are making the argument that these guys, in the emotional crucible that is NFL games, Cassius Marsh, who was just on the street and made a game-changing play, he needs to keep his emotions in check. That's fine. Can I just ask a question to the right side of the screen? Can the same standard be held for the 50-something-year-old men calling the game to not throw a little left cheek, right cheek into Cassius Marsh on his way to the sideline? Is that fair? Can we ask? What is this from Tony Correnti? I'm just curious. Was he afraid he was going to step on a snail? Can anyone defend that? Or are we just going to act like that's not part of the story? Can anyone defend it? I'm just curious.
I mean,
no. Okay, that's a no. That's a no. The answer to that is a no.
Well,
incidental contact. He's the ref. not a player. There's no incidental contact. He's the official. You guys are out of your minds.
All right.
You're out of your minds.
The Pittsburgh
Jenna,
Steelers win their fourth straight.
I'm yelling.
Thanks to, as Bucky called, a little skip-diddy-doo by the Chicago Bears. By the way, all 4 AFC North teams above 500 through 9 weeks. How about that? All right, let's talk some Mac Jones now. He explained what happened on this dirty-looking play, lack of a better term, on Sunday. Are the guys buying his excuse? We'll discuss next. First things first.
Jenna, I feel like Murtaugh.
All right, time now for In or Out, sponsored by Midas for tires, brakes, oil, everything. Make your appointment at Midas.com today. Patriots quarterback Mac Jones in the spotlight this morning after this little scene played out Sunday afternoon. Mac appeared to grab Brian Burns' ankle, twist it after losing the ball. Not a great look for the rookie QB. Yesterday, he explained his side of the story. Take a listen.
I got hit pretty hard. I didn't really know exactly what was going on. I thought he had the ball, and it was my job to try and make the tackle, and that's pretty much it. And, obviously when you get up and see the ball is actually down the field a little bit more, it was just a bang-bang play, and I didn't mean to hurt anybody or anything like that. I was just trying to tackle him and make the play because, I didn't really know what was going on.
In Carolina, a lot of people, a lot of headlines about Mac Jones in the first quarter, what they're calling a dirty play with Brian Burns. I was just wondering if you saw that and what you thought of it.
I think he thought Burns had the ball.
But you didn't see any twisting or anything like that?
I think he thought he had the ball.
Full explanation there by Bill Belichick, and now I understand all of it. So, Bucky, are you in or out on Mac Jones' excuse for grabbing Brian Burns' leg?
Oh, I'm in on this because the number one thing that a quarterback has to do is when he has the turnover, he has to make the tackle. It's something that way back in the day when I played in Kansas City under Marty Schottenheimer, in practices, if we threw an interception, everyone on the sideline had to go chase the guy who had the ball. And so it has been ingrained in Mac Jones to not let someone run free if he thinks that they had the ball. And look, Brian Burns and the Panthers can be mad, but Mac Jones didn't twist Brian Burns. Brian Burns twisted himself trying to escape the leg lock. If he had just laid down, he doesn't twisting have this dirty thing. Wow. Like he's twisting. Mac Jones didn't spin him around. He's not putting the Roddy Piper leg lock on him. He's just trying to get him down. And so, no, I am in on this. I don't think this is anything. I think there's sour grapes from the Panthers side because they got whooped. This was not necessarily a dirty play. He's trying to prevent him from getting the fumble.
Bucky. I've disagreed with Bucky more in the last 16 minutes than I have in the 16 months I've worked with him. Bucky, he sweeps the leg like he's in Cobra Kai training. That's why he twists. That's not Brian Burns' fault. Watch Mac Jones' right leg. He sweeps his leg out from underneath him. So don't tell me that's Brian Burns' fault. That's first of all. Second of all, no, I don't believe him that he thought. So he thought he was the only person on the field that knew Brian Burns had the ball? Because everyone else in the play is running somewhere else, including all of his teammates. I would like to hear some firsthand testimony. Was he yelling, "Hey guys, ball over here," while you're all running 8 yards away? Like, at what point did he think, maybe I'm wrong? Maybe when I got rocked and the ball popped behind me, Brian Burns didn't go gadget arm it and then jump back towards me. So it's an obvious lie. But the more I've thought about this, Wilds, the worse it is. And here's why. And I think you might agree with me, even though you adore Mac Jones. If someone works at a bank for 15 years and one day they take a little money out of the drawer, yes, that's stealing, but you also might say, wow, did something happen? Like what happened to you there where you decided to steal? If someone gets hired at a bank and the first day on the job they steal, it's like, oh, we hired a thief. Why am I bringing this up? Yeah. Mac Jones is a quarterback. He doesn't have many opportunities to do dirty things. He's not making tackles. He's not making blocks. And the first bite at the old dirty play apple, Mac Jones said, give it to me. Can't wait. So this is worse than a D lineman who could do something dirty 60 snaps a game, who finally at one point snaps or has had enough of it. This is arguably Mac Jones' first chance to do something dirty all year. And he did 2 things dirty. He sweeped the leg and twisted it and then lied about it. That's so much worse than other gator rolls for guys who have the opportunity to gator roll all the time and then snap on one instant. So yeah, you think he believes Brian Burns had that football and just everyone else was chasing a squirrel?
I don't know.
Like they're your golden doodle?
That's Bernadoodle, first of all. Well, I don't know. Last block, it was like, well, it's an emotional game. Mac Jones got hit. He had very few, giveaways, so it's a rare spot for him. He didn't quite know what was going on. We're on to Cleveland, but I do have a question for you, Bucky, because I'm glad you said it. Randy Moss, yesterday's broadcast, went so far as not only is it not a dirty play, he liked it. He liked that Mac Jones was out there trying to make a play and even giving him a little bit of something extra. I don't know. I don't want to parse Randy's words, but it was, he liked that sort of Mac Jones was in the trenches, so to speak. Do you think that the Patriots team will rally around these accusations lobbied at Mac Jones for a franchise that has all sorts of controversies, always seems to respond in a bigger way? If you were on the team, do you think they would rally around Mac Jones?
I think, look, this is part of the team culture. I think one of the things that we know about the Patriots is that they have a way of doing business. And one of the things that we talk about is, like, this is a team that rarely gives the ball away. I think a couple things happen in that instance with Mac Jones. One, we have seen he is one that is really hard on himself when he makes a mistake. When you see him walk to the sideline, he's kind of pouting, he's mad, he's angry. In that moment when he turned the ball over, look, he grabbed Brian Burns. I don't know if he necessarily thought that Brian Burns had the ball, but he didn't want Brian Burns to go pick up the fumble. He also was mad, so he took it out on Brian Burns. He grabbed him a little bit. Brian Burns decided to spin around and do all that stuff while he's trying to escape the figure 4 leg lock. And so maybe he hurt his ankle a little bit, but I don't think Mac Jones intentionally went out there and said, I am going to grapple with Brian Burns because this is what we do. We have dirty plays for the Patriots. I do believe he was trying to stop him from pursuing the ball, and maybe he added a little extra because he was frustrated that he gave the ball away.
Okay, so Bucky, it hasn't taken long, but Bucky is now getting closer to the reality of the situation. He already said, do I believe he thinks he had the ball? I don't know. Did he do a little extra? Sure. Was it was it caused by frustration and anger? Maybe. Yeah. Listen, there's a too long didn't read. Shorter version is a dirty play by a guy who's mad who just got rocked by Brian Burns. Same guy who, again, it should be noted, as they noted on the broadcast, Mac Jones been waiting for get back on Brian Burns evidently since high school. Wilds found the clip of Brian Burns sacking Mac Jones in high school. With Brian Burns lucky Tony Carini wasn't officiating that game, or he'd have thrown him out likely because Brian Burns stunted over Mac Jones after he sacked him in high school. This is
retroactive.
We can't act. There are certain things that we literally just have the video of. And this is the video of a guy grabbing a player who doesn't have the ball, sticking his own leg out to trip the other guy, and then gator rolling him. That's the video.
All right,
no one on the field thinks, okay, let me just say this last point. If Mac Jones truly thought Brian Burns had the ball, he's the only person who thought it. Brian Burns didn't think it. None of Mac Jones' teammates thought it. None of the Panthers thought it. So it's just an odd coincidence. But, maybe that's how it works. Or maybe on his first day on the job, he stole some money. And it's like, hired a
like Kevin Wildes and myself and probably Bucky, the Patriots are moving on to Cleveland now. That conversation's over. 5-4 Browns, 5-4 Pats. But before that, we got to talk some Ben Simmons. Boston Celtics seem to be interested in trading for Ben. Does swapping him for Jaylen Brown make sense for both teams? First things first. All right, time to Once we're on the fast break, NBA champ Antoine Walker joining us this morning. Morning, Twan. Here we go. Crazy play in the Nuggets Heat game. 2:39 left to go. Markieff Morris gets called for the foul. Then Nikola Jokic delivers the forearm to his back in retaliation. The MVP was ejected from the game, as was Morris, a game the Nuggets did end up winning. Here's what Heat coach Eric Spoelstra said after the game.
Just absolutely uncalled for. And it would have looked a lot different. This whole thing could have been a whole lot uglier if Markieff was actually facing Jokic. You know, the fact that he had his back turned and he made a play like that, you know, blindsiding him, that's just a very dangerous play.
I don't know who showed me the clip, and actually his head snapped back. So I feel really bad. I mean, it's a reaction. You know, it's a bad move.
Antoine, does Nikola Jokic's shove warrant a suspension?
Yeah, he deserves to because he blindsided him. He deserves to be suspended. But I think we have to look at this from both sides and be realistic. The Morris brothers are known to be tough guys in this league. They consider them dirty players. I don't consider them dirty players. I consider them the more physical players in the league that we have today, being that the game has changed. I played the game in the late 90s, early 2000s, where you had enforcers on teams. So I'm not necessarily against the Morris brothers and the way they play, but if you look at this play, and we're not on the court to understand, was it chirping? Was it anything else to lead up to it to make the Joker react the way he did? Obviously, you never want to blindside a guy because a guy can really get hurt in that situation. But the play before that, he hit him with a nice elbow right there. And this is a heated game. The Heat are playing great basketball. Denver's at home. So you got to think about all the emotions that's going through a player. But those guys have got to understand the reputation that they have in the league as being physical, tough, rough players, and players are going to react. It's unfortunate that he had to hit him from the back, so you got to take your punishment on that. And obviously, I think he should be suspended the game. But do not think that those guys are like, pushovers and that they don't deserve a reaction when they do things dirty on the court.
So listen, Joker's going to get suspended, and more on him in a moment. He is, in his full press conference, he tells you why he's so mad at Markieff Morris. And if you watch it, you know why he's so mad at Markieff Morris. This is supposed to be a regular take foul, something the NBA needs to eliminate. Just they called it the Euro foul, and then it got eliminated in Europe. These fast break stopping fouls got to go. But it's supposed to be a regular take foul. And Markieff Morris elbows him in the ribs and knees him in the knee. So Markieff Morris does, some Markieff Morris stuff to amp it up. But Jokic then takes it to an 11. Jokic running by his standards, I think that's full speed. I think that's about as fast as the Joker can go. And hitting a guy who's not looking is about as dirty as it gets in the NBA. We saw Patrick Beverley suspended when he shoved Chris Paul after the game just recently this past season. So definitely Jokic will be suspended. And I understand why he was upset, Wilds. He obviously drastically overreacted. But I also got to say this. Jokic has a responsibility that Markieff Morris doesn't have. And in this moment, he doesn't live up to it. He's a league MVP. He's one of the 10 best players in the sport. Can't be doing stuff like this. I'm just curious. Let's just go through other MVPs. Whole career. You seen Giannis do something like this? I haven't. Bron's been playing 19 years. Seen him do something like this? I haven't. KD. Seen him do something like this? I haven't. The only time I can remember Steph getting thrown out of a game was when, the game was rigged for ratings or money. He didn't know which, or his wife didn't know which, and he whipped his mouthpiece at the fans because he was so upset because LeBron was ruining his season. We've never seen Steph do something dirty like this. Like, you're not supposed to act like this is a league MVP, Wilds. You're not. I mean, tell me the last...
I get it.
Tell me the last one. I just can't think of it. Like, Markieff Morris is in the Anthony Mason, mold. Fine. Jokic is not supposed to do stuff like this.
Do you think that any other MVP would be hit like that at midcourt? Because I think you got to start there. Do you think if Steph was on a drive and it's a take foul, that Markieff Morris would come and slam into Steph. I don't think he would.
Yeah.
I think he gave him a little bit of extra because the Joker is a big guy. So he gives him a little bit of something extra, but he's not going to hit Durant like that. He's not going to hit Giannis like that. He's certainly not going to hit LeBron like that. He hit Joker because Joker, I don't think, demands as much respect as those guys. So he gave him a little something extra.
Maybe it's...
So, Antoine...
Listen, I don't know. Let me just, because you asked it, let me just add this real quick, Antoine. Because you said any other MVP, and Luka hasn't won an MVP, but he will one day. And Markieff's brother, Marcus, stomped on Luka's ankle. So I don't know if it's there's an obvious similarity between Jokic and Luka, but I'm not sure what it is, and there's an obvious similarity between the Morris twins. They're twins, they're brothers. But I do think the Morris twins, Antoine, have mixed it up with LeBron plenty of time. I don't think LeBron would ever respond, and Durant would never respond by hitting a guy who's not looking.
Nigga, I can't let you off the hook with that. That's not that. You can't put that on. He's still a man, and he still has to defend himself. I don't care what awards you got, whether you MVP or not. I watched Karl Malone take it from Dennis Rodman, protect himself against Dennis Rodman in the late 90s playing in the finals, and how Dennis used to mess with you and play physical. It's just not an excuse. And plus, you got to think about the reputation of the Morris twins in the league right now. They're known as physical guys that's going to play dirty, that's going to bang you up. And that's a reaction. I guarantee you, if that was somebody else, he may not react like that. He may go up to him, he may not shove him. But because it's the Morris twins, I think that's why he reacts like that. And so when you dish out stuff, you got to be willing to take it. But I don't think because it's MVP.
Listen, I agree with you. And I'm not here trying to defend Markieff Morris. And I do feel a little bad that Marcus Morris is getting thrown into this. Marcus Morris, like, I wasn't even in the state, guys. Like, what are you doing to me here? But I'm all for defending yourself. But running up on a guy who's not looking at you is not defending yourself. If Markieff would have been facing him and he'd have ran up and shoved him, it might have, like Spoelstra said, maybe it starts a fight. Who knows? And then if Marcus is in the building, Nikola's brothers were in the building, and you don't want no problem with those two. This could have gotten all messy. However, I just think it's because he's not looking at him, Jenna. Because he's not looking at him is what makes it so, beyond what you would expect as a typical retaliation.
All right, drama on the court to drama off the court. Let's talk a little Ben Simmons now. That was a transition. The current Sixer may not be a Sixer for long. A new report yesterday said the Boston Celtics have engaged in conversations with Philadelphia about a trade for Simmons. The report also said if any deal did happen, it would have to include Celtics star Jaylen Brown going back the other way. Simmons still sitting out after an offseason full of twists and turns, full of drama and other drama. So Twan, our drama king and our former Celtic great, would a Ben Simmons, Jaylen Brown swap make sense for both sides? You're not the drama king. You're just the king.
No, I don't think it'll make sense. It doesn't make sense for the Celtics. For Philly, it makes a whole lot of sense. But for the Celtics, it does not. You got a guy in Jaylen Brown who's becoming a star in this league, who's gotten better and better each year offensively and improved his game. When he came into the league, he's supposed to be just a defender. He's turned himself into one of the prolific scorers in this league. So that trade would not make sense. And then also, too, they got to understand, if you can't play in Philly, you can't play in Boston. The fans are just as tough. Yeah. They're going to be on you as just as much. They love their team. They love their players. They want players who love the game and who want to compete. And Ben Simmons has yet to show that. Right now, if I'm any team, Ben Simmons to me, unfortunately, and I like Ben. I think he's a great talent. Has no value. I think if I'm Philly, we got to get him back on the court and get him playing basketball in some capacity if we want to get equal value back. Right now, if I'm any team, I'm not taking a chance on Ben. He hasn't got back on the court, and that bothers me. It's starting to become troublesome that he does not want to play basketball. I mean, there's guys that tear ACLs, tear their meniscus, that fiend to get on the court and an injury happen. This guy's healthy. This guy's got a lot to prove. You would want him on the court and want him playing. And it seems like he doesn't want any part of it. So I would not make a trade for him.
All right, so I think you say something really important, Antoine. is that Ben Simmons has tanked his own value. And if this trade did happen, I don't think it would just be 1-for-1. I think the Sixers would have to send something else to Boston. Picks or something. Cash considerations. I think Ben would be on very, very thin ice. He would have. This is not Jimmy Butler leaving Minnesota, where you know you were getting an intense guy. You're getting a guy that we haven't. Last time we saw him in his court, he's at his lowest career moment. So he has to get back and do something. But I don't know how he does that in Philadelphia. But Nick, the way that this trade was received online from the Boston faithful is just. Boston is just living in a dreamland. That they think that they've got a championship team. They don't. They've got a middling team. And they're not sinking.
It's unbelievable.
But they might as well be. They're just floating and treading water in a sea of mediocrity. Like, guys, Kevin McHale is not walking through that door with Kevin Garnett gift wrap for you. You're going to have to do something. And Ben Simmons is at least something interesting. Because what you're doing right now is just treading water to another first-round exit.
First-round exit? How they got to get there, buddy?
Maybe.
Listen, right now, in the entire Eastern Conference, the full list of teams the Celtics have more wins than Detroit, wild sleeper pick, the Orlando Magic, and no, that's the list. There's 15 teams in the conference. The Celtics have more wins than 2 of them. Detroit and their perpetually rebuilding Magic. That's it. The Sixers, meanwhile, have gotten literally 0 out of Ben Simmons, just lost Embiid, and they're in second in the conference. So I understand the value proposition, but there's also a desperation proposition. The Sixers, maybe we thought they should be desperate. They're not. They're fine. The Celtics, on the other hand, are terrible right now, despite the fact that Brown and Tatum are both top 10 in the NBA in scoring. And we could do Ben Simmons has a more impressive resume than Jaylen Brown. It's inarguable. Ben Simmons been a 3-time All-Star. Jaylen Brown's been a 1-time All-Star. Ben Simmons been 2-time All-Defense. Jaylen Brown 0-time All-Defense. Ben Simmons 1-time. What's up, Jenna? What?
It's not who he is anymore, so it's hard to make that comparison. We haven't seen him. It's not who the guy is. How do you know who you're even going to get at this point? Because he's not quite all together here. He's got to get it all together before you see him back out on the court again.
Well, I mean, yes, but it was literally who he was last year. He got those honors last season, the most recent season we've seen him play basketball. But I do understand that Jaylen Brown, if you're ranking players in the NBA, despite the accolades part, Jaylen Brown is going to be ranked higher than Ben Simmons. But Kyrie Irving, pre all the vaccine stuff, would have been ranked higher than Ben Simmons as well. And I know Wilds, you thought, I don't remember what Antoine thought, that Kyrie for Ben would have made sense for both teams because it's about fit. And right now there is a really fair question of whether Jaylen and Tatum fit. And if they don't, you're never trading Tatum. You're going to end up trading Jaylen. I'm just curious, who is the 25-year-old-ish, like Ben is, same age as Jaylen, all-star that you can go get? I know that right now Ben's value is at its lowest, Antoine, but we can't act like he hasn't accomplished things in this league. He's been an all-NBA guy 2 years ago.
All right, we'll leave it there. And Kevin Wilds, you're right. Danny Ainge not walking back through that door, so they're going to have to figure something out. Back talking OBJ, the star receiver reportedly wants to be in Seattle. Come on, laugh with me, not at me, Antoine. Can the Seahawks make a run if they claim Odell off waivers? We're back after this. We got 3-time Pro Bowl linebacker LeVar Arrington with us. We're talking the latest now on Odell. The Browns officially put the star receiver on waivers yesterday, meaning teams have until 4 p.m. today to claim him if they want to pay him the $7 million plus he's owed. According to Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio, Odell wants to be a Seattle Seahawk. Okay, Odell, go pair up with Russ and DK out there in the Pacific Northwest. Who wouldn't want that? Pete Carroll, what do you think?
Pete, do you intend to claim Odell Beckham Jr. and add him to your team? you'll have to wait and see how this all goes. But at this time, I don't know. I've been on the practice field. I don't know what's going on with any. As you would think, we're aware of what's going on, and we've been involved to understand it and compete and to know what's happening. And we'll let you know as it all happens. I'm gonna wait. So I didn't say yes or I didn't say no, but that's just because you'll see.
That's a great answer.
Well, it was reported that OBJ does want to play for a contender. Seattle's only 3-5. Although they do get Russ back. Russ with the green light to return from his finger surgery, so he'll be back for Seahawks-Packers on Sunday. But LeVar, should Odell want to land with the 3-5 Seahawks?
I mean, he should want to land where he wants to land. I mean, as I see it, we're going to find out one way or the other, right? For good or for bad, for great or for worse. Is OBJ the issue, or is he in a bad situation? And that's the beauty of this, right? He wants to go to Seattle. If Seattle finds him, which it kind of sounds as though from the way Curl responded to the question that he really feels good about it. I mean, if I read it correctly, and you forgot to mention Tyler Lockett with DK Metcalf. That makes 3 formidable wide receivers in a receiving core. And if Russell Wilson, who I'm a little sketchy on if he can come back and throw the ball and handle the ball, torque out of it, throw the ball the way that he needs to after this surgery and this injury. I think that there is a lot riding. In fact, I think everything is riding on this next stop for OBJ. I don't think that OBJ gets the grace. I don't think that he gets the pass. I don't think that he gets the opportunity to blame anything or anyone else to blame OBJ's lack of production or being elite at the pro level anymore on something or somebody else. So I'm interested to see it, no matter where he ends up. But Seattle could definitely be a great landing place for him, Nick.
Yeah, this has to work out for Odell. The league is going to, because of the talent and because of how good he was at his best, they're going to give him a pass on Cleveland, the whole mess of it all. They will not give him a pass on if the next stop doesn't work out. If the next stop doesn't work out, then Odell's career, it's not over, but it is in a drastically different place. He is still a blue chipper, as evidenced by the fact that we are even discussing the possibility that a team is going to, because if they claim him, they're paying him $7 million for less than 10 football games. So the fact that is even a possibility shows the stature that he still holds in this league in some circles. Now, I understand, Wilds, why Seattle might be the perfect fit for him in this regard. They have a great quarterback. He knows they want to throw the ball. At least Russ wants to throw the ball. And he gets all his money. So if he goes unclaimed, it's $3 million shaved off. I don't need to get into the machinations of it, but that's how it's going to work out. If he goes unclaimed, then Cleveland only owes him $4 million, and then you'll see what he gets from his next place. As opposed to if he gets claimed, he gets the full $7.25. But I don't think Seattle's a bad fit, but I don't think it's the perfect fit. I've made the case as to why I think Kansas City makes a ton of sense for him. They clearly need a number 2 receiver like they had in Sammy Watkins. But even if you remove Kansas City, because one could argue Kansas City, it's not like they're a lock for the postseason this year. There are other teams that you could argue make sense. I mean, I think they're going to make the playoffs, but I understand right now they're far from a lock. Green Bay has always made a ton of sense. I think Green Bay, you have a great quarterback. You're going to be in the playoffs. The problem with Green Bay is the great quarterback going to be there after this year? Baltimore's going to be in the playoffs. It's not really fun to be a receiver there, but you're going to be playing in big games, and you would immediately become the number 1 option there. I do think Cincinnati and the Chargers at least are worth consideration. Young, quality quarterbacks, good receiving cores that you would bolster. To me, those options plus Seattle and Kansas City are all, would be your top 6 if he's free and clear to pick whomever he wants. I would have Seattle among those 6 Wilds close to last purely because I think they're the least likely of those 6 to make the playoffs. And I think Odell
totally agree.
needs to play in a playoff game. Odell's played in one playoff game ever, and all we remember about it is the boat trip he took beforehand. So I think Seattle, because they're in that division, Russ has been injured, and the record stinks, I think Seattle's would be an odd choice if playoffs are an important factor here.
Yeah, so if you're going to leave Cleveland and you want to be on a winning team, going to the 3-5 Seahawks seems weird. Then they play the Packers and the Cardinals. So they could look up and be 3-7. Plus, are we sure Seattle is that much different than Cleveland? They run the ball the 8th highest percentage of their plays. And we look at the graphic on how many times they line up 3 wide receivers. I'm not sure there's enough passes to go around. We know Russ wants to cook, but we know Pete Carroll does not necessarily want to let him cook. So look, as much as I think it would be scary for him to be on Kansas City, I do think a safer bet with a team with a great quarterback and is at least 500 or above is the move. So I still think Packers is the best move. You know, Aaron Rodgers is there, could always use another weapon. I think it'd be a nice olive branch from Gutekunst to Rodgers and also change the narrative up there. So Packers would be my number 1 pick. Obviously, Patriots actually my number 1 pick. But if it's not Foxborough, I'd go Packers, Jenna.
Listen, I like what you guys are saying. I have no issue with what you guys are throwing out there. But one team that you failed to mention was the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, this seems to be a team in turmoil. So many things have happened, from the head coach to your star receiver to now the whole draft class of Ruggs' his draft class and everything that's happened. But this is still a team that is in the thick of it and in the mix in terms of being able to win that AFC West, which is a very, very competitive division right now. In fact, there is a ton of parity. They all have 5 wins. This is going to be must-see TV. You add a guy like OBJ to the Raiders, where Derek Carr is playing some really good football right now. They're playing some good football right now. At times, a tad bit inconsistent, but yet nonetheless, so are the other teams in the AFC West. Don't rule out the Raiders in this scenario.
I think the Raiders were the favorites before they signed Deshaun Jackson. If I were counseling Odell, though, I would tell him, man, you've played with the good-ish quarterbacks. Eli Manning at the end, Baker Mayfield. To me, Derek Carr's in that same category. I would want, if I were Odell, to go to a great quarterback. Russ is great. Rodgers is great. Mahomes, even though Wilds thinks he's washed, is great. Herbert and Burrow could be great. I think that if I were,
it can work with Deshaun
if I were
Watson.
Odell, Jenna, well, Deshaun
it can work with
Watson, but we don't know where he's going to be.
Deshaun may get injured.
Oh, Deshaun Jackson.
May get injured.
Oh, you're saying if Deshaun Jackson you're saying the Raiders sign them both. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, sign them both.
All right, we got to move on. By the way, Seahawks, Packers on Sunday, both possible suitors for OBJ. So we'll see what happens there. 2 good quarterbacks. We head to the racetrack now. We got the newest NASCAR Cup Series champ, Kyle Larson, joining us to talk about his historic season. That's coming up after a quick break. First things first. That looks awesome. Just a little tease for the clash at the LA Coliseum coming to Fox Sports in February, and that's where we find the winner of this past Sunday's race, Kyle Larson. For Kyle, his 10th win of the season, a culmination of a dream year for the 29-year-old who took home his first ever Cup Series title. Kyle, we're going to get to the clash in a minute, but first, got to mention you've had such an impressive arc in your career, and we thank you for being with us this morning. You started on the dirt track. Now you're the Cup Series champion. Can you talk about what it felt like crossing the finish line on Sunday? I have to imagine that was such an emotional experience for you.
Yeah, it definitely was. You know, it's everybody dreams of being a champion, so a lot of hard work to get to that point, and a great opportunity too. So tried to soak in the moment the best I could, and just really proud of the effort from my team to pick up our first championship together.
Kyle, you mentioned the team. Your pit crew picked a hell of a time to have their fastest stop of the entire season. Helped you go from 4th to 1st. Can you tell the audience a little bit about what goes into that and how proud you are of those guys?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I'm more proud of the fact that knowing that it's going to be the final pit stop of the year in the championship race, and all the guys staying focused, not getting nervous, and clicking off, one of their fastest stops of the year to get us in front of three of the competitors in front of me to go out there and win. So that was such a cool moment. And like I said, just very proud of them and proud of the hard work all season long.
Hey, Kyle, one of the most exciting aspects of sports in recent memory is this embrace of playing the games or races in new locations, right? So hockey had games at Wrigley Field, and we saw the Field of Dreams game in baseball. We saw NASCAR have the dirt track race this year. Now you got the clash at the Coliseum. What I find interesting is, for all of those other sports, the dimensions and feel of the game are largely the same. The rink will be the same size at Wrigley Field as it is in, any other rink. But for you, as a driver, was so connected to the feel of the track. What is challenging about that? What is exciting about that as you look forward to the clash at the Coliseum?
Yeah, it's going to be an awesome event. The smallest racetrack by far that we will, have raced on in the Cup Series. So I just got here a handful of minutes ago, and it looks unreal. So excited for that event, especially being a California native, to come here to Southern California and put on a great event in front of a packed house is going to be really cool.
So as far as your team goes, Kyle, what are the expectations heading into that? How much prep work goes in? How much have you changed sort of the mindset coming off the win you just had heading into the clash?
Yeah, so next year we have in our sport a totally new car. It's called the Next Gen car, so way different than what we're used to, that we've been used to in my whole Cup career. The car is going to be way different. And then coming to, I'm sure it'll be about a quarter-mile racetrack, is going to be a lot of beating and banging and just a totally different style of racing than what we're used to. So we'll probably have to watch a lot of video of local, regional short track racing to get an idea of how to race this place. But we all look forward to the challenge, and hopefully we can put on a good show for the fans.
Kyle, thank you so much. We want to say congratulations again on a great season to you, and good luck. We'll be watching you at the Clash at the Coliseum. It is in February. It is only on Fox Sports. Appreciate you being with us this morning.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
We are going to take a turn, get back to a little football. Mac Jones sharing an explanation, maybe an excuse, whatever you want to call it, for this dirty-looking play on Sunday. I'm just describing it. Are the guys buying his tall tale? Talk about that next. First things first. First things first, talking a little Monday Night Football. Bears, Steelers, and some big controversy out of this one. With the Steelers up 3, just under 4 minutes left, Bears linebacker Cassius Marsh called for a suspect taunting call after celebrating a sack, then making contact with official Tony Corrente. Looked more like Corrente bumped into Marsh. The flag for the sideline stare ended up extending a Steelers drive. That resulted in 3 points. Steelers won. After the game, Marsh explaining his side of what happened.
I think it's pretty clear to everybody who saw it that I wasn't taunting. And, I've been doing the celebration my whole career, and you know, it's just sad to see stuff like that happen in a close game like that. It's just rough, man. I don't want to say too much because y'all know how it is, but the one thing that I will say is, you know, on my way to the sideline, I got hip checked by the ref, and it's pretty clear. If I were to do that to a ref or even touch the ref, you know, we get kicked out of the game and possibly suspended and fined. So I just think that was incredibly inappropriate, and that's all I'll say about that.
Did not peg Cassius for a guy that wears that kind of coat. Ref Tony Corrente addressed the call after the game, saying, first of all, keep in mind that taunting is a point of emphasis this year. And with that, I saw the player, after he made a big play, run toward the bench area of the Pittsburgh Steelers and posture in such a way that I felt he was taunting them. When asked if the contact contributed to the penalty, Corrente said, no, not at all. I didn't judge that as anything I dealt with. Nick, did the penalty on Marsh cost the Chicago Bears this football game?
Well, it cost them 3 points, and they lost by less than that, so one could argue it definitely did. But we don't know what would have happened if they don't call that penalty. Pittsburgh would have punted. Maybe Fields doesn't have the drive. Who knows? What I do know is this. 3 parts of Tony Corrente's actions and statements really bother me. The first one is 2 of the words. I don't want game-changing penalties to be decided on words like felt and posture. I don't what the gifts of Cassius Marsh sent a sense to you that he was taunting them. I needed to be a little more black and white. And I certainly don't need his we're now determining taunting based on posture. If his shoulders were more slouched, I can let it go. But you got your neck back and head back. No, that's a penalty. That's first of all. And second of all, the only posture to me, LeVar, that was objectionable in this entire thing is Tony Corrente's, flourish like he's a Broadway dancer of post-hip check, ta-da, and then he throws it and stares at the guy. That's a referee preening. Like, how does this happen?
Look at how much time elapses. Look at the time. 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 And now he's looking at him while he throws the flag. You're guilty. You're guilty.
Of what?
Let's take a step. The referee is guilty as charged. Look at this. Okay. He could have been through that flag long before.
Yes.
Cassius got to him. If this is taunting, it should have already been thrown. It should have already. He's looking at him running in the opposite direction. And look, he hasn't thrown it. Hasn't thrown it. Now you made contact. You're watching him run off the field as you're throwing it. That's strike number 1. Strike number 2, Mr. Referee. The kid played for the Pittsburgh Steelers a year before. He is familiar with those players. If you're going to call taunting, call it on when he did his little swinging kick. Don't wait for that right there, like him walking over there looking at his former team. You're saying he's taunting by looking at his former team. Could it be interpreted as a level of taunting? Sure. You know why? Because he stayed a little bit too long, and 6 was in his pattern, and I get that. But throw the flag right then and there. Somebody must have called down and been like, you got to throw this flag. Mr. Referee is like, let me bump into this dude. Somebody had to call down. Look at it. No, not throwing that. Let me bump him. Oh, he bumped me. Oh, I'm not going to say it's because he bumped me. I'm going to just throw this flag because it's taunting, and everybody has to believe it because I'm a white hat referee. That's strike 3. Your white hat does not give you the right to do what this man did on national television on a primetime game that costed the team possibly winning the game. 3 strikes. As a matter of fact, 4 strikes. You don't even get 4 strikes. And this man gets 4 strikes for what he did right there. He should be fined for this. And by the way,
Fine.
Logan Paul meets Last Kingdom. Utrecht, son of Utrecht. You're up on. Are you up on Last Kingdom? My man Cassius looks just like Logan Paul meets Utrecht.
Oh, okay.
Utrecht, son of Utrecht.
Okay. He's all right, guys. Go ahead.
Okay. I got you. I got to get on it.
Go ahead, Wiles. I'm done.
Okay. All right. This is a message to media, fans, and players. The referees are going to call taunting. I don't know if you heard about it. We've been talking about it the whole year. They're going to call taunting penalties. It's a point of emphasis. Stop whining. Stop whining. Nick, this is the third taunting penalty the Bears have had this year. It's not a surprise to anyone. He celebrates, he does a karate kick, and now this is taunting, and everybody knows it. Be like, oh, but Wilds, it's an emotional game. I get it. You know what else is an emotional? Not going off sides. But if you move your arm like this, or your shoulder like this, or you jump up an inch, you get penalized. And no one's like, well, it's an emotional game. Of course you got to be off sides. Of course you got to have false starts. Oh, he's lining up against his old teammate. Of course he should be allowed to have a false start. It's just a few inches.
Just curious.
No, everyone knows it. Stop whining. Stop whining.
Okay, but you stop acting like this is consistent. Because if we're going to act like his posture and his lingering stare is taunting, then what was it when Cam Hayward got the pick and there was a 30-person party in the end zone of the Steelers defense?
Party.
That's okay. And the body kick was not flagged. That's okay. But the idea that we're going to act like Tony Correnti was being reasonable here.
Where is he?
Left cheek, right cheeks, Cassius Marsh.
Where was Mac Jones's flag?
Cassius Marsh, and then throws the flag like that and holds the pose like he's a three-point shooter, holding the ball through Jenna. It's ridiculous.
LeVar, thank you so much. We got to go. Undisputed starts right now.